here that we need to do.
Yep.
We've got game 2 of the second best of 3 that we've done tonight with these two. We've got game 2 coming in between Believe and SteAdfaSt. Believe currently in the lead, 1-0. SteAdfaSt coming in from behind. That was, like, last game, what ended up being Believe's biggest crutch, do you think? And do you think like he needs to do, like, what do you think he needs to do differently this time in order to win?
I think SteAdfaSt, what he may want to do is play a lot less greedy. Like, honestly, he was just going so hard economically that the cracks started to show when it came to his army. But we're going to be spawning in here. Game number 2 on Vonnie Research Station. We're spawning on top of our green Protoss player representing Team Extreme Supremacy. It is Believe.
And then on the bottom side of the map, we've got our blue Zerg player being played by SteAdfaSt. And we've seen this map a couple of times today, to say the least, featuring completely safe expansions, or at least completely safe as far as ground units are concerned. Chances are it's going to be an interesting game regardless, but both of these players are more than able to use the additional safe resources available to them. So what kind of strategies do you think they're going to go for at this point? Do you think the Zerg player is going to get super aggressive, or do you think they're going to sit back? What do you think, like, SteAdfaSt and Believe are going to end up doing here?
I feel like SteAdfaSt, he's going to play. He's going to sit back a bit. You know, Vonnie Research Station. You've got this in-base expansion here. SteAdfaSt, he's been shown. Well, he can really go either way, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did go for a bit more of the economic play, kind of like what we saw last game. But it looks like, yeah, SteAdfaSt, he's going to be sending a drone out just to make sure that there isn't kind of any proxy shenanigans going on, for good reason, of course.
Meanwhile, Believe sending out his own probe, not to proxy, I believe, because we've already built one pylon with a gateway already back all the way in his base, but he is scouting, which is something that Believe tends not to do. So this is a little interesting. We'll see what he ends up seeing. Which in this case ends up being very, very little, which I guess says a lot in its own right. Right now we've got one hatchery and another hatchery being built off to the side and nothing else to show for it. So SteAdfaSt, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to try the Zergling stuff all over again, or is he going to try for something a little bit more, a little bit different, like go straight to roaches this time or something?
I don't think he'll be getting aggressive. That's definitely not happening. As we can see, we've got the third hatch on the way. Plus, also, he was going up to 18 supply already. I feel like going straight into roaches might be the superior option here, but of course, you know, you do have to get the spawning pool to start things off, and it's a little difficult to say. It'll be a lot easier to tell once the gases are up, or if he even gets a gas.
And it looks like we got a probe down here. It's thinking about putting down a pylon, and it does. It's going to then start running away as fast as it can. Believe scouting absolutely everything that SteAdfaSt is doing. SteAdfaSt just continuing to do what he's doing. He's building a spawning pool. It's about a little over halfway finished. The pylon being finished right now. So what's going to end up happening here is a good question. Down goes the photon cannon, and the drones are going to attack it. Down goes a second photon cannon. Down goes a third photon cannon. One was canceled. The probe is putting down another photon cannon down after that one. What is going on? There's photon cannons everywhere.
He's trying to throw down as many as possible, so that way it creates so many targets that SteAdfaSt is confused on which one to go for. He's only got drones here to fend these off. And now, you know, as we can see, the drones are all split up across the 4 of them, and this causes some of these cannons to be able to finish perfectly fine. One of them is going to go down, the second is cancelled, but there's still 4 technically in total at the moment, though of course 3 are being warped in.
And the Zergling's going to come in and going to force out the cancellation of another one, but Zergling numbers are useless in small corridors, as is becoming distinctly evident as these Zerglings start trying to do something about these photon cannons. That one photon cannon just does not want to go down, but it's going to have to go down anyway. And Believe is just being a complete nuisance with these photon cannons and doing his best to just annoy the ever-loving crap out of SteAdfaSt. Up on the top bit, we've got, you know, Believe just doing his thing. He's producing stuff and more photon cannons and more probes. His second expansion is slowly starting to come online, whereas SteAdfaSt, he's just building Zerglings, and he's trying his hardest just to get this crap out of his base. He finally succeeds, but at the end of it all, it ends up being actually a pretty good exchange for SteAdfaSt, hilariously enough. Despite the annoyance that went out, that was a net loss, as that last probe signals the 6th unit to go down for the Protoss side, but they end up losing 959 resources, whereas despite 18 units being lost for the Zerg forces, they ended up coming out on top. They ended up losing less resources. Despite that, though, the Zerg getting completely caught out. The Protoss unit, like Zealot, just going to sit there and enjoy his time of finally going down. But this photon cannon is just going to harass these Zerglings. These Zerglings can't do anything. There's too many shields on the cybernetic core. There's too many shields on this warp gate. The pylon still relatively healthy, and yet SteAdfaSt is continuing to pump Zergling after Zergling after Zergling as hard as he can. But with his mothership core and the attentions of a photon cannon, that should spell or not spell the entire end of this. He's doing his hardest to take care of the cybernetic core before all these Zerglings go out of style. But the photon cannon and the mothership core are going to be able to take them all out. SteAdfaSt needs to start recalling these Zerglings if he wants to keep an army that's worth talking about alive. Nope, he's just going to go ahead and call it there. It felt like he finally had something to talk about, but he decided to quit it there. Do you think that was the right decision? Do you think that he could have done something about that? Or do you think that SteAdfaSt was right to go ahead and call GG's right there?
With the amount of Zerglings and committing to the Zerglings that he had done, I don't think there was much he could have done, especially on a map like Wanner Research Station, where you've got that in-base expansion. Sure, you've got 3 bases of your own, but you just don't have the amount of workers that will be able to propel you forward.
I guess you're right. I mean, I don't know. I guess I was just hoping that because Believe was on his back foot, that we could have seen some more interesting play out of SteAdfaSt, and just something that would have made his lead worth something. But yeah, I guess he committed too hard to the Zerglings, and that's that. That's it for the qualifier for tonight.
That is indeed going to be wrapping up the TorCraft Cup online stage for round 4. Of course, this is not the end for TorCraft Cup. There is going to be more next weekend at Radeon Extravaganza, presented by ESChamp. We've got $1,500 on the line this time around, thanks to AMD Radeon, as well as Oddly Studios. And, if you're interested in coming on out, you can head over to eschamp.com/AMDgaming for all the information. There's not just going to be StarCraft, there's going to be the Counter-Strike Global Offensives, some Dota 2. There's going to be a lot of free stuff as well. There's a whole lot of sponsors there wanting to give you their product. And
so, essentially, free stuff in video games sounds like a win to practically anybody, I would think.
If it's not a win to you, you're obviously got something wrong in your head. That is the most amazing weekend you could have over in North York. It is taking place at Hunter and Lucas Esports Club, and registration closes Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you are interested in signing up for Dota or StarCraft, or just coming out as a spectator, you should do that soon. Spectating is free. CSGO is actually sold out, so you can try getting on the waiting list, but I don't know how well that's going to work for you. And
still, TorCraft, everybody's going to be fighting for $1,500 next weekend.
Yeah.
And all these players that we saw today, are we going to see them there as well?
We're going to be seeing most of them, I'd like to say. I don't know if there was anyone here today that's not going to be here next weekend. I feel like most of them are going to be registering if they haven't already. And that's going to be it for us here today. Of course, this was brought to you by ESChamp. You can follow them on any social media of choice, except Instagram at /ESChamp. And follow, like, subscribe, what have you. Also, of course, if you're interested in finding out when we're going to be doing stuff next, or when VODs are live, you can go to eschamp.com/sign-up and sign up for our email newsletter, bringing you all the information straight to your inbox. And
where can people find you, though, Doc? Where can people find you?
Well, they can follow me on the interwebs on twitter.com, where I don't talk about StarCraft at all. No, I'm kidding. I talk about StarCraft, a whole lot of other fighting games, and whatever else muses me at twitter.com/MasterDulk. And of course, Slow Wolf, where can our fine viewers find you?
You guys can go ahead and find me on Twitter as @SlowWolf. You can also find me on YouTube at YouTube/SlowWolfGaming. I have my own channel where I do my own Let's Plays, but I focus a lot on Awesome Knots, and I'm starting to get into StarCraft, Dota 2, and all that stuff. And I also have a Facebook page, but I don't. It's practically an extension of my Twitter, so I don't really care too much about that.
Fair enough. And of course, you can follow WarChamp7. He is the one doing all the production magic here at ESChamp, at WarChamp7 on Twitter. And that's going to be it for us here today. We will see you next Saturday and next Sunday for Radeon Extravaganza, presented by ESChamp.